Good morning, everyone. I hope you're having a good day so far. Today's a big day in the US. It is election day, so I hope everyone out there has either voted or is going out to vote. I am a newer citizen of the US. I'm a dual citizen of both Canada and the US. And I did early mail-in voting. So I got that all done already a few weeks ago so that everything would be good the day of. And thankfully, because election day is always Tuesday, so and I do Casing Tuesday on Tuesday, so it's a good thing I got it done so I didn't have to take care of that today. But get out there and vote, and don't feel like your voice doesn't matter, because if everyone thinks that way, then it's just a free for all for those people that actually want to take the time to vote. So if you're in the US, get out there and vote, please. All right, that's just my plug for the day. Anyway, we have Casing Tuesday today, and that's the day when we take a card out of the catalog and we give it a makeover. And this challenge is really great because it doesn't matter what level of stamper you are, whether you're a beginner or whether you're like me who's been stamping for a long time. This is a great challenge, a great exercise to do. And if you're a beginner, we give you help because we'll give you a sketch with measurements so that you can not have to figure those out all on your own. And we have a Facebook group where you can see the other cards that people are making. You can get some inspiration for how you might be able to convert your card, or if you like the card as is, just make the card as is. A lot of times, though, we don't have the stamp set that is used on the card, and I'm just trying to remember. I do not have the stamp set. I'm trying to remember what the original card was because I was working with my card. I do not have the original stamp set, so you do often have to convert, but sometimes we have something that's similar, and that's what I did today. I took a card that was similar and I used it to create my card today. So I hope you will join in. If you want access to the Facebook group, look below in the description of the video. That's where I put all the information. I was a librarian in a past life, and I like to have information where people can find it. So usually in the description, in my descriptions and everything, you'll find all of the information. The only thing when you see that description, it looks like really short, but look for the show more button, and that will open up the full window with all the information, because that little description, it only shows about 2 lines of the description, and then it dead ends into the show more, and a lot of people don't realize how much more information is down there. Not just on my video, but pretty much on all videos, there's more information down below. All right. Well, do you want to see today's card? Good morning to everyone who's joined so far. Thank you for being here. I love it when there's people here, and I'll chat with you at the end. I'll see what's going on, and if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them. So here is today's card. Look at that beautiful card. It's got kind of a neat sort of a background, and I think that background, I can't remember what die set that's from. I think it's from a snowman, one with snowmans in it. But I do not have that, and I do not have that little pulling sleigh bundle. But let's see what I can do with today's card. We'll see that in a moment. And here is the sketch. If you just don't know measurements or sizes, here are some basic measurements. And of course, you can change these around. We're not going to come and measure your card. This is like a challenge, a starting point, and then you take it to where you need it to go. So I love this challenge that we do each week, and we do it every single week of the year. I pretty much do it like all the time, except there's some rare times when some unexpected things have come up in my life where I wasn't able to complete the challenge one week. But those weeks are really rare. And so this is something you can definitely be consistent about. Okay, let's pop over to my other camera. Here we are. Here's my card. Look how beautiful it is. This card is made using the Grassy Grove bundle. And the cool thing about this bundle is that you could pretty much turn these trees into whatever season you want. And I've been walking out a lot these days. Almost all our fall leaves are off the trees now, but there's still a lot of color around. Some of our trees haven't shed all their leaves yet, and there's yellows on the ground, and it's just beautiful. And that's why I turned this into a fall card today. And I just got this bundle like last week, and I thought, oh my gosh, how perfect it was for the card sketch, because it really has kind of that same framed feel to it. So I'm going to show you how to make this, and it's not rocket science, and each card is going to be different, and it's a lot of fun actually to add all of those colors onto there. I'll show you how to do that. And then I just finished it with a little deer and a greeting and some embellishments, and it's a lot of fun to make. Perfect card for this time of year. All right, let's talk about, real quickly, let's talk about the main products I used today. So the Grassy Grove bundle, and that consists of the Grassy Grove stamp set and the Grove dies. And buy the bundle if you're getting them, because you can save 10%. This greeting set didn't have a happy birthday, and I wanted to make this a happy birthday card. So I went to these go-to greetings. And if you haven't gotten this stamp set yet, I think you should, because there are certain greetings you're going to use over and over again. Happy birthday, thinking of you, thank you. And these greetings are done three different times, sorry. In this very scripty font, in this smaller font, and then in this medium-sized font. And each one of them is pretty and useful, because we often need different kinds of sizes for our cards. So I love this go-to greeting stamp set. Definitely recommend getting that one. Okay, and I'm also using the Banners Pick a Punch too for that little greeting, and this one's a great one to have to have something to put your greetings on. I'll show you how to use that in a moment. Okay, let's get started. And you know what I want to do? I'm going to start this a little differently than I normally do, because I need to die cut this little deer here. And I'm also going to be die cutting this piece. So let's do all the die cutting first. So I'm just going to take my little deer stamp. I've already mounted it onto, this is a C block. Open up my soft suede ink pad. And just dab, dab, dab. This is really a photorealistic kind of deer. Just stamp it down. Okay, so that's ready to die cut. And then we're going to need one other piece, and this piece is 5 1/4 by 4 inches, and it's going to be this main piece that's out front right here. Okay, let's bring in the die cutting machine. Looks like I've been die cutting something else. I left a piece of paper in there. Get rid of that. Okay, so let's just take a look at our sandwich, which is the base platform number 1, thin die adapter number 2, a clear plate number 3, and let's do our deer first. And we'll grab this matching deer outline die. And we'll just put this just around the deer. Just take a moment to line everything up. And then I'm just using a piece. This is the Post-it note tape I left down in the supply list. The last supply list item is this Post-it note tape, or use the top of a Post-it note. Almost everyone has Post-it notes in their home. So just use the top sticky part to help hold your die in place while you're cranking it through. I love that I do not have to cut out the steer, because sometimes like getting in between the little legs and stuff and those little tiny cuts are hard. So there's my little deer. Very easy to cut her out. It's probably a female deer. So a doe. And then we're going to use this big die right here. And we'll get our piece out. I like to work from left to right, so I'm going to just shove that back. So we'll put our 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece down. We'll put our die on top, and I am going to leave just a little bit more room on the top than the bottom. I'm kind of centering it from side to side, and I'm leaving maybe 1/4 of an inch, 3/8 of an inch on the bottom, and just kind of eyeball it. And it helps a little bit if you put it through on an angle. I also shifted that a bit. Just want to make sure the bottom is parallel with the edge. I'll put this on top and we'll run it through. And since this has a bunch of tiny little chads and little pieces, just run it back through in the other direction. It doesn't take very much more time, but that is going to help with that whole cutting process. And we'll just put this back on here, and we'll lift this off, and most of these will fall away. Sometimes I just flick, and then if that doesn't work, we do sell a little brush attachment to our Pick-a-Punch if you want to do that. But most of the time with these bigger pieces, there's a couple here that didn't come out. This one is a pretty nice and easy die cut. It doesn't, the little pieces don't tend to stay on. So there is our piece, and we're going to color that. Okay, I am just going to, usually I scrape that away, but I think I'm done my die cutting, so I can go ahead. All right, so you're going to need a piece of scrap paper to protect your work surface, and then you're going to bring this out, and we'll start off, we're going to color the tree trunks first, and I'm going to use a crumb cake bullet tip so that I have precision, and this is the crumb cake dark marker, and I'm going to skip anytime I see kind of like a jagged fluffy part. I'm going to skip that because that is going to be in color, and this is just going to be the trunk. So anything that you think should be a trunk, a tree trunk, color that brown. And I'm just adding color, color, color. This I'm doing the rest with sponge daubers and a blending brush. So I just I want the precision though of this crumb cake. It's easier to do this part with something that's a little bit more detailed. The other colors are kind of more random. So, okay, we've done this side so you can kind of see how I've just added that. This is just like a fun kind of thing to do when you're sitting down. Maybe you're listening to music or a podcast or your favorite audiobook, and you can just sit and color and relax. Some people don't like coloring, then maybe this isn't a project for you. But if you do like coloring, this Grassy Grove die is so wonderful. Okay. I'm just trying to see if I missed any of the little trunk pieces. The other thing I noticed after I had finished, and you can do this afterwards too, is since this is, you're going to see a little bit of the sides, so I kind of did the edges of my trees because they ended up showing up a little bit white, and I didn't really like the look of that. So I just kind of lifted that up and just kind of did this and this, this. I don't know why it didn't sink in all the way. Probably if I kept going, it would have sunk in eventually, but just to kind of get rid of the white that's on the sides of those. Okay, that looks pretty good. I like the way that looks so far. All right, so now this is the fun part. This is when I get to add color, and you could add color right to the edges, but I left a bit of a white border. So we're going to start off with our lightest color, which is crushed curry. And I've got a sponge dauber that's just for crushed curry. I'm going to sponge off a little bit. And I'm just going to randomly kind of come in with some deep color and just add some yellow, or in this case crushed curry, to this piece. A little bit more down here. And it's okay if you go over the trunk. It's gonna get hit with a little color too, but it will all look good in the end. So that's kind of just random. And you know what, I'm gonna set this aside because I might use a little bit more crushed curry. Now I'll come in with pumpkin pie. Next color, fall colors. You choose whatever fall colors you want. And so the crushed curry and pumpkin pie are a little bit of the same ilk, but just slightly different. So you have to decide how much more you want to add. Okay. Okay, I'll put this aside. Actually, I used the wrong sponge dauber. I grabbed the wrong one. This one's the pumpkin pie. That's probably why it didn't show up very orange. Let's come back in. Let's come back in and add a little bit more orange. There we go. That's brighter. I was wondering why that didn't look so different. I'm going to have to, so if you do that with your crushed with the wrong color, you're going to have to like clean this off. So I would just wet this a little bit and then just clean it off so the pumpkin pie comes off. So I'll just have to remember to clean that. Just wet it a little bit. Don't get it super wet. I mean, you can get it wet, but then it's going to take time to dry too. So I would just make this just a little bit wet, get most of the stuff off, and then keep using it with crushed curry. But we're not going to do that today because I don't have time. So, and you don't have time either to wait for me to fix my sponge dauber. Okay, so now we're going to come in and use Pear Pizzazz. This is one argument for not keeping ink pads open, because we tend to like go back to the ink pad that's open, and sometimes we grab the wrong blends. So you're just going to come in and add some green to here and here, and you can come up here and in here. Okay. Just kind of blend, blend, blend. All right, so you can see I have just randomly created a scene that looks very, very fall-like. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come around the edges and do all of this in Pear Pizzazz. So I'll just start and just kind of wend my way along the edges here. It's a grassy grove. And remember, I'm not going all the way to the edge. That looks pretty good. I like the way that came out. So there we go. We've got our fall scene all mapped up. And you saw how random those colors are, right? And it looks pretty good considering that looked like a real hot mess at first, right? So that's kind of cool. So now I want to create a little bit of a backdrop, but I don't want a really deep dark backdrop for my little scene. So I'm going to take another piece of cardstock, and this one's just a little bit smaller than this one. I'll just put this on top. So this one is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. Okay. Let's flip this over to the back side so we can kind of not focus on all the random colors. And this time I'm gonna use a blending brush because I want a very light look to it. And I feel like you can do a better job with a blending brush if you want kind of a light look. So I'm gonna use Balmy Blue. And I did experiment. I did try and just put a piece of Balmy Blue back here, Balmy Blue cardstock, or even Pool Party cardstock. But what I found is it was too dark. I just wanted just a real light shade of Balmy Blue. So I'm just dipping this in, and I'm gonna take some of the color off. And then I'm just gonna lightly, I'm starting very, very lightly. And I'm just gonna kind of bring this blending brush around. And you see, this is kind of the area. You don't have to go right to the edges, but I'm just gonna kind of give it kind of like a little bit of a little sky blue, and that will help pop the yellow and the orange a little bit too. So I'm just working in the color. I really don't want too much. Okay. I don't know if you can see that. It's like just really subtle. And if you like darker, bolder colors, go for it. Or you could even put a dark piece of cardstock behind your layer. So we're going to adhere both of these together. I don't know if you can see that, but it just kind of provides like that little bit of sky blue in the background that I love so much. So you do want to put your glue on your die cut piece rather than on this piece, because otherwise the glue will be popping through. So I'll just take this and I'm going to go around the edge first. I don't want to go all the way to the edge because this piece that's going on top is smaller, so it's not going to go all the way to the edge, but I'm going to go right just around the forest edge like this, and I'm going to come up the tree trunks because I want this to pin down. Just draw in here. Okay. All right, that should be good. And then I'll take this piece. Actually, probably the best way to do this is to take your smaller piece and put it on top, the back. That way you know for sure that it's not going to overhang. And then press this down. Let's see what this looks like. Yay. That looks good. Oh, there we go. So there is our little scene. So now we're going to grab, we use Pear Pizzazz ink, so I'm going to use a Pear Pizzazz card base. So this base or piece started off as 8.5 by 5.5, and I scored it in half at the 4 1/4 inch mark. Use my bone folder to smooth it down. And then I'm just going to glue this onto the front of my piece. Okay. Then we'll take our little deer friend and we'll take some mini dimensionals. You'll probably need about 3. I'm not going to put any on the legs because they're too skinny. But this way I can, oops, I can just pop up the deer just a little tiny bit. easier down here. Okay, and then we need a greeting. So I'm going to take a piece of basic white cardstock. I've cut this to 3.5 by 3/4 of an inch. And I'll take my Banner's Pick-a-Punch. I'm just opening it up on the bottom here. This time I'm going to use the indented banner. I'm going to feed this in, give it a punch. This is just a really great punch for creating little greeting banners or other banners too, but it's just very handy. All right, so now we're going to use one last color, or black, which I don't know if people consider that a color. Guess it is. Has lots of colors in it. And then I've got my happy birthday on a block here, and I'll just stamp it down. Isn't that a pretty happy birthday? That was the Go-To Greetings stamp set. It's this one right here that I showed at the beginning. All right, so this should just kind of come across here. I know it's going to cover up some of our beautiful sponging, but that's okay. Just put it across. And then I want to make sure that it's square on there. We'll use some champagne rhinestone jewels, and we'll just add some to our card. I'm using 5 this time. This little guy, he's moving around. I'm gonna grab him. I know people think, don't pick up the random ones, do them in a row, but sometimes I pick up ones that are sliding around because I feel like they're going to slide right off of my card if they've started that process. So I just added a little bit of bling to the trees just to draw some attention to them. And that's it. That is the card. And that didn't take me too long. I know it looked kind of complicated, but it actually is not. It's like quite easy. Oh, you know one other thing I did? And you can use like a Sharpie or a Sharpie pen, but I like when my deer's eyes have a little bit more depth to them. So since I stamped in soft suede, I'm just going to hit the deer's eyes with a little bit of Sharpie black. It just pops them a little bit more. I don't know why that matters to me or not, but I found the eyes a little dull. So that's all there is to the card. How easy was that, right? I don't know. I think this would also make a cute Christmas scene or a spring scene. You just bring in different colors to create your, your sponge daubering. You choose some pretty colors, and I think fall is probably, I don't know, other than spring, which, you have sometimes those beautiful blossoms, but fall is so spectacular. And wasn't fall spectacular this year? I don't know, but New England had a really good show this year for their leaves. We just had so many bright colors this year that it was just really spectacular this year. So I hope you had a spectacular fall wherever you were at. The colors and I'm on the East Coast, and we've had some really phenomenal weather this last couple of weeks, and it has just been just wonderful. And I know my mom lives out in British Columbia, and they've been having snow all week, and I'm like, wow. But I know growing up, we used to get snow in BC. November is the typical time to get snow, whereas on the East Coast, it seems to start later and then stay longer. So I don't know. There's no perfect world, right? Okay, let's delve in a little bit. I should show you my host code, right? This is my host code for the month. And this month, I'm giving away a stamp set for every $50 you spend. You can have a look at all the stamp sets I'm giving away. If you go to my blog, cubiesquest.com, let me see if I have that as, oh, here we go. That's my website, my blog, cubiesquest.com. And if you click on the menu item host code, you'll be able to get to the page where you can see all the stamp sets that you can choose from. These are retired, unmounted stamp sets. They come in a nice little case. They are some of my favorite stamp sets. I am going through a process right now. We are probably going to be moving into a smaller place, so I cannot have all of these stamp sets anymore. I'm using current product all the time because I want someone, when they see my project, to be able to recreate that project if they want to. So I use all current supplies. So these are some stamp sets from my vault that you will get to see. Let me pick up a few. Got a few back here. Some great, good ones that, this one, D is for dog, so cute. Got dotted autumn, so like I've got fall, Christmas animals, feathered hope, another beautiful one. So there's lots still that are available. I sent off the first batch this week, so my customers who ordered from me will be getting those very soon. I'm not waiting till the end of the month with this one. I still have not sent out my October gifts. That's what I'm going to be doing this week. I'm making thank you cards for all of those, and those are still coming. If you ordered from me last month, do not despair. You will be getting those. They are called Festive Pearls, and I think these are still on back order. You can't purchase these right now, but they were my gift, and I got them ahead of time, so I made sure I had enough for everyone that ordered from me last month. So those are going out in the mail. All right, let's talk to everyone, see how you're doing. Janine, good morning. And Janine is like, yes, get out and vote. Yeah, get out and vote. You know, I think everyone's voice should be heard, and I think that's so, so important. And so get out there and vote. Good morning, Kristen from Colorado. Good to see you. Good morning, Dee from Kansas City. Hello, Ellie from Connecticut. Oh, Ellie says the card looks like her backyard. Deer and all. Oh, I love to see deer. We don't get very many here. We're pretty urban here, but I have seen, I think, probably 2 deer even here. And fun fact, a few years ago, we even had a bear that wandered into Newton. They had to move it out because we're not super urban, but we're urban enough that the bear needed to be brought back into more of a wilderness area, and that kind of shocked me that a bear could get all the way to here. I guess there's enough wooded sections that are connected that the bear could get in, but it definitely was not a place for a bear to roam. We have coyotes and, you know, your usual animals, but deer not as many as you would find further out. But how fun that you have that, Ellie. Kristen said, what a fun background dye. It is, and it's fun to color too. Hi, Mary. Good morning. Good morning, Nina. I'm so glad you're here, and you're up early. I'm glad you're up early, but yeah. I get up early too. I'm much more of a morning person. I get up, and the first thing I do the first big thing I do is I go for a walk every single morning. It's like my routine of the day. I don't even know if my body would function anymore if I didn't walk. I'm seriously that addicted to walking. It really helps my day restart. And then when we come back, my husband and I go for a walk. We come back and we have breakfast in the morning. That's our morning routine. Good morning, Deborah from Virginia Beach. And she says she loves the gorgeous card. Thank you. Good morning, Polly from North Carolina. Good morning, Betty in Oregon. And Mary said it was a beautiful card. Kristen said, such a fun way to get inky without a big mess. Yeah, it's not, other than the fact that I used one wrong sponge dubber and one wrong ink pad. Luckily, it wasn't like a color that really would make a big difference. I'll just clean that up afterwards. It was pretty mess-free. I think, well, I do have a little bit of ink on my fingers, but not too much. So I think I did a pretty good job. Ellie said, this is amazing. Well, thank you. And Dee said, so very pretty. I think fall cards are among one of my favorites. This is lovely. Thank you, Dee. Kristen said she loves the bling in the trees. Thank you. I think it just brings a little bit of attention to like the colors. You know, when the person gets the card, they may not notice the bling right away, but as soon as it catches the light, they will. So that's a cool thing. Betty said, gorgeous card. And she said she's having beautiful fall colors in Oregon. Well, that's awesome. I'm glad that other people are experiencing the beautiful fall we've had too. Janine said this was one of Northwest Indiana's best fall foliage seasons ever. Truly magnificent. Yeah, I've heard that from like my friends in different parts of the country. So I think it's been a great fall for everyone. Betty asks, when are we moving and close by? Yes, we are trying to find a house nearby. Yeah, usually we move far away, so it's kind of weird to think about moving within the city. I guess we've done that once in our first home. We moved when we first got married. We've been married not quite 30 years. It was 28 this year. And when we first when we first moved in together after we got married, we had an apartment and we stayed there, I think, 2 years. And then we built a house with a builder because there were like kind of areas where they were putting up houses where we lived. And we bought a house and we lived there for 5 years, almost to the day. And then we moved down to Tennessee. And then we moved to Boston about 8 years ago. And when we moved here, Boston is a really tricky market. I think I've talked about this on other videos, but it's a tricky market to navigate, especially when you're coming from places where they've mainly had newer homes, and that was the case for us. It's really hard to wrap your head around buying an older home, and that's the norm here. Newer homes, you have to go further out, or if you're buying a newer home, like in a more urban setting, it's a tear down, and those are usually very expensive, and we can't afford that. We could maybe afford a tear down shed. Here. A new shed with a new door. No, that's so what we're looking at is probably buying an older home that's maybe had some renovations, or maybe we can do some renovations too. We've put in a few offers, but the market is still, how would I put it? The prices are coming down, but they went up quite a bit. So there's a little bit less competition right now, but there still is a lot. Like the first offer we put in on a house had 6 offers on it, and the house went $200,000 over the list price. So no, we did not get it because we did not go $200,000 over the list price, and we needed room to, if that house needed renovation. So if we had gone at our max budget, we would have been house poor, and we do not want to do that. So we're going to be patient, and we're just going to keep our eye on the market and see what comes up every week, and hopefully eventually we'll find something. It's hard to be patient in life. I think that's one of the hardest things to do is to sit around and wait and be patient, because our natural instinct is to get rid of whatever you want to do, you want to solve the problem, right? And so we just have to be patient and just keep looking, keep seeing our options. And it's just a very, very tricky market to navigate. And we do need to be in the Boston area for my husband's work. I could do what I do wherever in a cheaper place too, but this is where he needs to be. So we're just trying to find that balance. We've been renting here for 8 years, moving from a market like Memphis that was a lower cost of living, selling our house there. We didn't have the same amount of money that you would need for a more sizable down payment. Here we had to sell at kind of a weird time where the market hadn't picked up yet after the housing crash. So we were able to sell our house, but we lost some money on it compared to what we paid for it. So so it's a bit of a journey, but everyone has stuff, and that is our stuff that we're working through right now. And some of it's kind of fun. We get to see a whole bunch of different homes, but it's like a whole different set, like a whole different mindset from buying new. You have to walk into a house, like even the house we live in right now. I love it. Beautiful view, but it was built in the 1950s. My kitchen has red countertops. So, some of you might have red countertops too, or whatever color, and you're like, yay, and you're happy there. And I'm, I grew up with red countertops, so I've come full circle now. We had red countertops in our house, maybe it wasn't the first house, but the first house that I remember. So now I've come full circle back to the 70s when red countertops were a thing. And so I especially love to bake. And so I would love like a little bit more counter space and, just get a little bit more upgraded kitchen. So, but we might need to renovate and get that. So we'll see. That's like a really long-winded story about my housing thing, but don't ask a housing question if you don't want a long-winded answer right now, because I'm like, that's my thing. So I'm just going to go off on a tangent. All right. Betty says, wishing me all the luck in the house, all the luck in your house hunting. Thank you. And she said, oh my goodness, yes, crazy market still, but it's going to get better. Yeah, I think it will. And I think it's just trying to find the right time to get into the market. So we're just kind of, starting looking. We know this process, it might take 2 years. So, and that's okay. We're just going to figure out when the right house comes along at the right price. And then hopefully we won't have 6 bids on the house and have it go way over the list price. Oh my gosh, it's craziness. But anyway, well, thank you so much for joining me this morning. I go live twice a week right now, and I go on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time Fridays on YouTube. So I hope you will join me for one of those. My YouTube Friday is usually a 3D item, a 3D project, or a fancy fold card. So it's something a little bit more complicated, and that one always has a project sheet attached to it. And so you need to be on my email list to get those weekly project sheets, and you can find the link to subscribe to that down below. I hope you guys have a great week, and I hope to see some of you on Friday. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.